Sixth graders. I've got two different things for you to take a look at today, two short videos. I'm going to show you two examples of essays now that we've been talking about what goes into an essay, and yesterday we went through and highlighted the parts of an essay. So what I've got here for you is this first one is our bad example, and I shouldn't say bad example. It's just not super well written. Maybe it's missing some things. So what I am going to do here, I'm going to read through and then I'm going to work my way back through and say, okay, what was missing here? I'm going to show you this thought process because as you're writing, you're going to have to do the same thing in your own essays. All right. So we'll start by just reading it first. Most people haven't heard of this charity. It helps people in times of need. Most people will need help at some time in their lives. If people have a fire, this charity will help. I think we should donate our money to this charity. This charity is really helpful and will help a lot of people who are in need. First, my reason is because it helps with professional training. If people have a fire, this charity will help. They do a great job giving training. Training is good to have, especially when it's professional. A lot of people need training, and this charity helps with that. Second, equipment. They help people buy equipment which they really need to fight fires. They buy fire departments a lot of stuff that they need. Third, a lot of firefighters die each year. That's really hard on families. Families are really sad when someone they love dies. It's too bad that so many firemen die each year. They're trying to be helpful. As you can see, we should donate to this charity. It helps people in times of need. If people have a fire, this charity will help, and they do so much for our nation, and it's time to give back. Okay, so when I was reading through that, I'm sure you guys noticed one thing right away that I noticed as well. They said the word help, pretty sure about 25 times. Okay, that's too much. So we could say that that would be one issue here um, that needs to be fixed. Okay, you can see they've got, oh, it helps, right? Most people will need help. If people have a fire, this charity will help, right? They've got help at least 4 or 5 times in this first paragraph alone. So that would be one major issue that they have. So let's work through and see if they have what they need. This first paragraph, obviously, the very first thing we need is an attention getter. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily an attention getter. Most people haven't heard of this charity. Here's the question. Is that a question that's being asked? Is that a quote? Is that a fact? You would go through and look and say, it didn't really catch my attention either. Does it make me want to read more? Not so much. So this we could highlight as one of our issues. Okay? Helps people in time of need. So then our next thing that we're looking for is this last sentence in the first paragraph should be a thesis statement, right? Here's what I'm going to talk about for the rest of my paper. This charity is really helpful and will help a lot of people who are in need. Okay? Technically, that is what the rest of their paper is going to be about, so we'll let that slide. It's not the greatest thesis statement, but it does tell us what they're going to talk about. So we can't really highlight that and say, oh, it's not there. It is. It's just not very clear. So then we look into your next one. They've got a transition word, so that's good. Okay, and then we look at their sentence and say, my first reason is because it helps with professional training. Great. So here's the one thing I would say, and this is just me being picky. You would just say, first, they help with professional training, right? But we'll work on that when the time comes. They're telling us what the paragraph's going to be about, so that right there is what we need. But here's my next question. As I'm going through this paragraph, what I've got highlighted here, did they give really strong supporting details? Because it seems like to me, when I read it, it feels like maybe they just came up with some ideas of what they heard that the charity does, and then they put it in their own words. Okay. So the other big issue with this paper, besides the fact that it really doesn't have an attention getter, is um, their supporting details. Okay. This is This stuff that I've just highlighted here is basically just their opinions, right? And if I look in the second paragraph, they do have a start to their sentence, so that's good. But then they do the same thing. They help people buy equipment which they need to fight fires. You could read that on the website and just put it in here, right? So that wasn't necessarily great information that they found. And then the same thing with the third one. They've got a transition word and a topic sentence. And then they used opinions, right? It's not necessarily that they actually went through and used details that were really strong. So, those are our main two issues right here. The fact that they don't really have an attention getter, and then that their information, their supporting details, are not well put together or well thought out. Okay. So then we look at our last paragraph. They restate their thesis. As we can see, we should donate to this charity, right? And they basically did repeat what they did at the top. So they followed that direction. It's just that if they would have had an attention getter, this part would have been a lot better, right? So this essay, as you can see, isn't awful. It just needs a little bit of work. Okay. So this was my bad example. In my next video, I'll show you my good example.